Hey everyone, and welcome to this compilation video on all of my videos on Five Nights at Freddy's. I am currently filming a secret project out in Chicago, so that is why there's no new video this week. But hey, enjoy Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, 4, and sister location. I haven't played anything beyond that, mostly because after sister location I swore off any of the new Five Nights. I'm doing this mostly because the new Five Nights movie is coming out soon. I know those videos are really popular with you guys who watch them, so thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week for another brand new video. Enjoy!
Scary games and streaming go together like peanut butter and jelly. Audiences get to watch their favorite people get spooked. Streamers get views. It's a perfect combo. And every now and then, a game comes along that takes the internet by storm. And a few years ago, that game was, and still is, Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's has a lot going on for it. It's a minimalistic horror game that makes a lot of unique choices to ratchet up the tension. Yes, it can be repetitive and relies on a lot of jump scares, but overall, it's a pretty alright game to play for Halloween times. But it's been years since I played the original, and given my past with the franchise, I am not looking forward to this game. We'll see how I feel when I re-complete Five Nights at Freddy's.
Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome back to another brand new episode of the Completionist New Game Plus, a show in which I am recompleting games I've already done from the first 120 game lineup. More on that in the description down below. Guys, happy Halloween. Fun fact, Five Nights at Freddy's, when I first released it, came out on Halloween, so I guess it's kind of poetic that I re-released the newer version once again on Halloween. Yay! So today, as you're all sitting at home, not trick-or-treating, sitting at home, playing video games, sitting at home, making a grilled cheese sandwich, don't you worry, my friends, because for you, I went back to the future. Five Nights at Freddy's, here we go.
Five Nights at Freddy's was a phenomenon when it first came out. It was a legitimate hit that spawned way too many sequels and spin-offs. I wanted to go back to the source to see if my opinion on this series has changed since I first started playing it. Believe it or not, completing an entire series of something just might burn you out. While it feels like the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has been around forever, it's actually only been about 4 years since the very first one came out. Five Nights creator Scott Cawthon was inspired by the nightmare-fueled robots from Chuck E. Cheese and other kid casinos to make a truly creepy game. It probably also didn't hurt that some people thought that in one of his older games, the characters moved like animatronics, making them seem weirdly scary. So for his follow-up game, he fully embraced it. I made a point to play the game right at its initial boom in popularity to see if there was interest from you guys. And at the time, I really liked what was here in the game. But now that I really think about it, especially after I've submitted myself to completing so many of these games, I really think the buzz around the game was what sold itself more than my actual interest. Five Nights at Freddy's is a horror game with first-person perspective gameplay. However, the player is confined to just one room, an office full of surveillance equipment. The goal is to survive for 5 nights in a row as hostile AI try to sneak into the office and kill the player. To do this, they must constantly be on the lookout for enemies, using the cameras in the office while closing doors and managing the power in the building. FNAF and its 249 sequels aren't terribly difficult to beat if you're just trying to get through the main game. Fully completing them, though, can be extremely difficult considering the community around Five Nights at Freddy's single-handedly shaped what completing the game was. Thanks to Markiplier and the dozens of Five Nights at Freddy's YouTubers out there, the lore was single-handedly attached to the extreme stress of completing these games. What was once a fun challenge for the most intense gamers turned into nightmare fuel for completionists all over the world, ultimately leading to the recent release of Five Nights at Freddy's Ultimate Custom Night Mode. Now let me be clear, I am not knocking indie game creators for setting difficult challenges. I, in fact, live for it. I just think the fandom of the franchise kind of shaped what it meant to complete these games. So much so that one of the big reasons why people watch other people talk about FNAF is because you don't have to play it to understand it, removing the stress from the jump scares and turning up the interest on the lore. I actually really liked FNAF the first time I played it for the show. I appreciated the game's approach to storytelling and enjoyed the feeling of isolation and mounting pressure that builds upon each night. The aesthetics of the game didn't amaze me overall, considering that the main freaking thing you look at is a GIF that's bending around in a circle, but I loved the cohesive experience I felt. You can definitely tell that this game is a personal passion project for the creator. In my first video, I said that I thought it was worth going all the way through because of what it brought to the genre and the unique mechanics that it employed. Completing it was a chore that became a nightmare, but I really did enjoy the first game in the series. Admittedly, I also was a bit of a jerk when it came to making the first few FNAF videos. I had too much fun scaring the audience that watched the videos by using the game's assets as a means of scaring the viewer. I learned pretty quickly that I upset a lot of people with my own surprise set of jump scares. So to the fans that were there back in the day, I have changed. I am really sorry, truly. No, really, there aren't any jump scares, I swear. So let's see if I still have that magic touch to complete this game again, because doing so originally was an absolutely nerve-shredding experience. First up, I'll have to make it through the first 5 nights alive, which is the game's equivalent of getting to the final boss, only to have the curtain pulled back and yet another mode revealed. It's like your princess is in another castle, only horrifying. After I make it through the first 5 nights, I'll have to move on to the 6th night with even more difficult gameplay. To be fair, 6 Nights at Freddy's doesn't sound nearly as good as 5 Nights at Freddy's, so I get it. Gotta keep that alliteration, y'all. Next up, I'll have to conquer the hardest mode FNAF has to offer. If you make it through the first night and the 6th night, you'll notice 2 stars on the starting menu. We need to get that 3rd secret star, so I'll have to make it through the most difficult thing the game has to offer, Custom Night Mode, specifically 20-20-20-20 mode. In this mode, the AI can be custom tuned to a ridiculously high difficulty, and the random number generator is out to screw you. Since I've completed this game before, I know how the AI generally behaves and how to defend myself from the animatronics, but 20-20-20-20 mode practically destroyed me the first time through. I'm hoping that a few years of distance and having done it once before will help me make it through this nightmarish difficulty mode once again, so I can get that final star and put this game back on its digital shelf and never have to look at it ever again. Sorry, did that come off as aggressive? I mean, do I sound nervous about completing this game again? Am I afraid of having another panic attack in the name of some Steam achievements? Of course not. Why would I be? Wait, there's no achievements in the original game, right? Scott did not go back and add achievements, did he? Did he? Check it. Check it. Oh, thank God. Five Nights at Freddy's really was the beginning of a whole new genre of game, what I like to call the stress management simulator. The first time I completed it, I was surprised by how effectively the game created a feeling of dread and tension, even though the presentation is pretty freaking simple. Going through it again, I'm reminded that a strong premise with good execution can be even better than $1 million budget. The player takes control of a night watchman type character, charged with keeping an eye on the big spooky animatronics in a local restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The premise is delightfully absurd because the animatronics lock up and break if they're turned off for too long, so the management of the joint has decided to leave them on all the time. Therefore, the animatronics roam the building at night, leading to accidents and poop in your pants jump scares. The old night shift worker leaves the player voicemails.
It might be a good idea to peek at those cameras while I talk, just to make sure everyone's in their proper place, you know. Interestingly enough, Freddy himself doesn't come off stage very often. I've heard he becomes a lot more active in the dark, though, so hey, I guess that's one more reason not to run out of power, right?
and it's up to the player to learn for themselves what happened to the restaurant and to eat all the pizza they can before being eaten by a robot chicken. Alright, so I lied about the pizza eating robot chicken thing. I'm just trying to give myself a little levity here because this game is stressful as all hell. Our enemies in this game have become an iconic crew of happy animals gone smelly murderers that have so much merch, it's bizarre. We have Freddy the bear, Bonnie the bunny or rabbit in some cases, Chica the chicken, Foxy the pirate fox, and the secret scary golden Fredbear. I hope you learn to like these guys a lot because this crew is the game. The general gist of how these animatronics work is that you've got Bonnie on the left side of the area and Chica on the right. Depending on the night or the crazy setting, you'll have to keep an eye on these two a fair amount. Your goal is to prevent all of the animatronics from entering the office, obviously, but it's important to know that those doors can't hold more than one animatronic in them at a time. So if someone is saying hello, you don't have to worry about another animatronic in that same doorway. On the other side, however, whew, it's rough. Foxy is one of the more annoying animatronics because if you check the code where Foxy is and their door is wide open, chances are Foxy is sprinting at that very moment down the hallway to grab you, and you've got to put your monitor down and close the door right away. Doing so will protect you from getting bopped from Foxy, but your battery meter will take a huge hit. At the end of the day, power management is huge, and it gets worse eventually when Freddy shows up. It just adds another management wrench to your already complicated system. Even though the premise is just an excuse to set killer robots on the loose, there's a creepy mystery at the heart of everything, with details teased out over the course of the game in newspaper clippings and voicemails with allusions to murdered children possessing and haunting the various animatronics. The game doesn't really spend much time explaining why things are happening, which is probably good because it's already unsettling enough to having decaying animal robots trying to jump out of the shadows and eat your flesh. I still think the premise works well, though the dozens and dozens of animatronics and their variants within the game's 318 sequels have been exhausted pretty hard, especially with the massive amount of YouTubers contributing to this lore bait. And honestly, I was a part of that problem. After Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, I vowed to walk away from the franchise altogether, but in comes New Game Plus, dragging me back to the restaurant I've loathed all these years. Who knows, maybe the recently greenlit movie tie-in will add some more depth to everything. Everyone knows that a movie adaptation is just the thing to juice up a long-running video game franchise. So there are horrible knockoff Chuck E. Cheese monsters trying to kill the player. How do you defend yourself? Set up traps to stop the animatronics? Big hunkin' shotgun to blast them to pieces? Invest in some zip ties to tie the enemies to the radiator? Well, you don't have any of that, but what you do have is the awesome power of a CCTV and doors that can only stay closed for short periods of time before draining the entire building's power. Man, this character must have been really desperate for this job. Thanks, Obama. Does that still count? No? I thought it was good. Basically, the animatronics can only move towards the office that you're sitting in when you aren't looking directly at them. Seems like the answer would be to just keep the camera trained on them at all times. But that drains the power, and when the power goes out, bad things happen. You have to alternate between closely watching the creepy menaces and deliberately not watching them to save energy. Your office has two doors, one on each side of the screens. But for the doors to stay locked and secure, it costs energy. So, watching for the enemies on the cameras? Energy. Flick the lights on in the hallway. Energy. Running out of electrical power is pretty much a death sentence and an invitation to be jump scared. Because this game is pretty much a point and click game, there isn't really much to say about level design or interesting puzzles to solve or incredibly detailed animation. The game essentially does one thing, and it does it extremely well. Create tension. I initially praised this game for its focus for sticking to its central idea. I thought it was great that the game kept itself constrained because that made the player feel limited and powerless. Now, I find it all incredibly anxiety-producing and stressful. Look, I'm just trying to make it through the day with as few screams as possible, and this game really does not help with that. Now, the sound design is actually very solid when it comes to FNAF. The game essentially primes you to be jump scared by forcing you to pay attention to the littlest things at all times. Cruel, yet effective. The animations aren't amazing, especially when you realize they're just GIFs, but they can get the job done, and that job is jump scaring the crap out of you. Each animatronic has a personality, like how Chica enjoys long walks on the beach and Bonnie just loves chocolate. Ah, great. Now I'm just imagining The Bachelor, but with Five Nights at Freddy's characters. Ugh. By personality, I mean how the AI closes in on the player. You'll learn how to plan for each one's approach. Because this was an indie game, and it's difficult to catch everything, there were a couple of bugs that I encountered. Some are minor, like pop-in textures, but sometimes the game would freeze or crash. Fortunately, this game has been patched a few times since its initial release, so load times are smooth and nothing glitched out too badly in my revisit. Although I did notice the lack of Golden Freddy this time around. They really toned down his RNG in the most recent updates. There are a lot of references to lore and secrets to be found in this game. Some are designed to screw with the player, like the game-ending 1987 Easter egg. In Custom Night mode, where players can adjust the AI's difficulty from 1 to 20, some players were certain that there was an alternate ending to be found by inputting the difficulty numbers to read as 1987. Now, this wasn't because of the weird obsession with the release date of Beverly Hills Cop 2, but because of the line of dialogue referencing the bite of 87 that you hear in a voicemail. Unfortunately, putting these numbers in results in the game crashing, with a particularly horrifying Golden Freddy getting a little too up close and personal. I found it satisfying the first time around to learn how to counter Foxy, Chica, Bonnie, and Freddy. There's escalating dread, but it still feels like you have some amount of control when you slam the door and save yourself from getting killed. And because each playthrough is different and the levels are short, it doesn't get too stale. All positive things. You know, maybe recompleting this game was a great idea. But that does lead me to my biggest problem with Five Nights at Freddy's. Something that bothered me then and still bothers me now is the RNG that comes into play at higher levels of difficulty. I could be having a really solid run, conserving energy like I'm a solar panel fanatic, clicking between cameras without mistakes, and then getting hit with a Foxy charge that takes up 20% of my battery power. I get that it's part of the game, that part of the tension is dealing with curveballs that are thrown at you, but it absolutely sucks for trying to get through this game's most difficult mode. Once you make it through the first 5 nights and the bonus 6th night, you'll gain access to Custom Night, where you can adjust the AI of the animatronics to different levels and see what the game throws at you. Putting all of the enemies on the highest level, 20/20/20/20 mode, aka 420, is an exercise in mind-melting, nerve-shredding chaos. If you all thought I looked exhausted and tired after completing Mega Man 11, you should have seen how I looked getting through 20/20/20/20 mode in my first Completionist video. I honest to God almost cried with relief after hearing the chimes that proved I had made it through this mode intact and got that 3rd star the first time I completed this f***ing game. It's exhausting to try it again and again and again and again and again and again. Look, I'm not trying to be harsh here, but having played this game and its many sequels, I just feel stressed and anxious anytime I revisit them. The first game was pretty solid, even though completing it made me grind my teeth to dust from jaw-clenching stress. It was so hard to go back and revisit this game, everyone. Though, here's a little tip to make things a little more bearable. Just replace every jump scare with me saying, "Oh, hi, Mark," and let the good vibes soothe your soul. Oh, hi, Mark. What a story, Mark. Oh, hi, Tommy. Sadly, there isn't much in the way of completion bonuses in Five Nights at Freddy's. Scott Cawthon, the creator, didn't really put any kind of reward in place for people beating 420 mode because he didn't actually think it was possible. There's the intrinsic satisfaction that comes with completing something for its own sake, and then there's nearly destroying your sanity for nothing but a small digital star on the start screen. Not a great feeling, people. Now, you've all heard me complain and moan long enough about how 420 is in this whole episode and how awful it is. But I think it's fair to say that when I originally did this challenge, it was in fact super scary. It took me 68 damn tries to beat this challenge. It was not fun. And I followed Markiplier's strat constantly until I finally did it. That method involved a pretty crazy routine of checking the doors and monitors in a specific way, but at the same time, it also felt like pure RNG. But some time has passed, and people have argued which is the best method for beating this whole damn thing. And at the end of the day, the best method I found was from a YouTuber named Kevin. His method was so much cleaner to do, as it involved spamming the monitor constantly to make Freddy move to a certain position, followed by checking the left side to make sure that Bonnie never got inside. Every now and then it was important to change the camera angles to check and see if Foxy was still in the cove. While a lot more complicated to do, in the end, this method was so much easier. I was practicing this and I didn't even think to record myself or have someone record me during the process, and I just did it. And it feels weird to try and like recreate this random narrative of me reacting it all out. Regardless of this ease, I still want to stress that this game and the lore and the difficult modes attached to it are not designed for everyone. And when I mean everyone, I mean it's not designed for anyone. It is designed for the true masochists out there. And after doing this twice, I am good. This franchise still makes my skin crawl every time I hear the name or even look at an animatronic. When I recompleted Five Nights at Freddy's, there were 23 jump scare related deaths, 5 scary animal robots determined to eat my face,
2 paychecks earned with a total of $120.50. Yay.
7 nights survived, including the insanely difficult 420 custom night, and 1 recent visit to Chuck E. Cheese to determine if they still exist. And it does! Did you guys know they modernized the rat? He looks so nice and friendly now. Five Nights at Freddy's never would have existed if this rad little dude had been the inspiration. Attempting to complete this game will surely eat away at your soul. And while Five Nights at Freddy's has turned into a huge internet powerhouse of a franchise, I am so glad that I can put it away again and never have to look back at it. However, I still gotta worry about recompleting Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
You ever thought to yourself, man, I love to play a game that's made entirely of GIFs? Five Nights at Freddy's. But here's the thing, I actually respect Scott Cawthon a lot, and I think the premise of Five Nights at Freddy's is very fascinating. I just think the, what's it going on, like 175th sequel? I don't know how many there are, how many books. The second game came out months after the first game. The third one came out a few months later. The fourth one came out a few months later after that. I don't know if it's my age, I don't know if it's my patience, I don't know if it's the idea of New Game Plus and what I'm already doing every single week, but at the end of the day, recompleting any of the Five Nights at Freddy's games is not worth it. I think I was a part of a problem. I think I was a part of a YouTube hype machine that created this new narrative of scary games online, and I contributed in a way that I only succeeded from. Five Nights at Freddy's is an okay game, and it doesn't go beyond that. I think the lore is fascinating, and I think the YouTubers and the community behind the lore is fascinating. I think everything else is just okay. So, with that in mind, guys, I give this game my new completionist rating of play it.
Play it!
Five Nights at Freddy's. After several years, a seemingly endless number of sequels, and countless videos picking apart all of the little bits of lore hidden throughout the series, just the words Five Nights themselves makes me want to go running for the door, but not in fear, so much as it just sounds so stressful and difficult, like it's going to suck away years of my life. Again, and I admit, I played a part in the internet's love affair with those games, but I keep getting older, and FNAF, well, FNAF stays the same age. Wish me luck as I recomplete the hardest game in the series, and which will be my last Five Nights at Freddy's video ever with Five Nights at Freddy's 2.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Completionist New Game Plus, a show where I'm recompleting the first 120 games I ever featured here on my channel. Guys, it's days like today when I question this whole endeavor of redoing these episodes. I think I've made it pretty clear how done I am with completing the Five Nights at Freddy's games, new and old. There are just so many of them, and completing them involves so much luck and so much stress that I've had to see a doctor, and you know what? I'm just not gonna do this anymore. I'm done. Screw it. 119. I said I'd recomplete all these games, but life is too short. I'm gonna go home and relax and just... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, who's doing this? Look, I gotta get out of here. This is dumb. I just gotta go. Complete the game, Gerard! Okay, so apparently the whole TOVG crew aren't gonna let me leave until I've completed the goddamn game, but Fortunately, the people I work with aren't all that scary, so hopefully I'll be okay. What the?
When I last played Five Nights at Freddy's 2, it was pretty much immediately after I played the first game, which was partly because they came out like a month or two apart. And while I didn't yet know that there would continue to be a barrage of these games released one right after another, I was already starting to get a little burned out, mostly due to FNAF 2's difficulty. Now, admittedly, I enjoyed the first game and really enjoyed being a part of the conversation that broke out around the time. But with each subsequent title, my enthusiasm for these bare bones little horror games had started to wane, which isn't to say that I don't admire what creator Scott Cawthon has made here. The internet loves these things, and it's easy to see why. If there had only been one game, I don't know how much staying power it would have had, but releasing a much harder sequel immediately after the first cemented Freddy's notoriety and set the tone for the rest of the series. Much like the first game, Five Nights at Freddy's 2 traps you in the security room of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza as a horde of animatronic monstrosities roam the halls, ready to murder anyone they find. There are little tidbits of lore interspersed throughout, including that this game is a prequel to the original, and more allusions to the Bite of 87, the notorious incident that started it all. There are way more animatronic monsters in this one, for a grand total of 11. There are the 4 originals, mangled and decayed versions of them, and an evil freaking puppet that pops up if you don't keep his music box wound up, and that's on top of having to check all the cameras to keep track of where each mechanical monstrosity is. Although you don't have to worry about reserving power like you did in the first game, this one takes the goddamn doors away, leaving you instead with a series of vents and a wide open hallway that you have to shine your flashlight down. And your flashlight has limited batteries because of course it does. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is also notorious for being the most difficult of these things, which is really saying something. Completing this just about broke me last time, and the relief I felt when I finally did it was, well...
Oh my god!
You get it. But hopefully the gods of RNG will be on my side, and I'll make it through with only a fraction of the stress I felt before. But this is Five Nights at Freddy's after all, so I'm not gonna hold my breath.
Okay, look, obviously I don't want to have to do any of that stuff if I can help it. So maybe I can still get out of here. I'm almost out of this. Not this time, Five Nights. Not this time. Jesus Christ, Ted. Ugh. This is so stressful. Why are you doing this? Oh, transition. I see. Yeah, thanks for the transition help, I guess. I'm out of here. This is so lame.
Horror games have a unique appeal. The Five Nights at Freddy's series stripped down the genre to its barest essentials. You're stuck in one room, unable to move, with the knowledge that a bunch of scary animal mascots are looking for you, and that they'll pop up and make a loud-ass noise when they get you. It's as tense and stressful as it was the first time I played it. But stressful isn't the same thing as scary. This is a major trap that the horror genre can fall into no matter what medium you're talking about. Having something pop out while the soundtrack suddenly spikes has always been an easy way to get scares. But they're the type of scares that leave you almost immediately after. They don't linger or having you look over your shoulder for days on end. They're just loud. Last time I played with the volume up all the way for the full experience, but this time I couldn't even be bothered to try to be scared. For each of the terrible nights that your security guard character spends at Freddy's, he only has to last for about 7 real-life minutes, which is even shorter than the first game. But there are so many more ways you can die in this one that make 7 minutes feel even longer than I remember. You have to constantly check your cameras and open the hallway and the 2 vents on either side. And then the music box adds another layer of micromanagement on top of that, since no one wants to get murdered by an evil marionette doll. But it took me a while to get back into the game's rhythm, and if you suck at multitasking or forget to do one of these crucial steps, you'll get one of the game's signature jump scares. And honestly, after a certain point, those jump scares aren't even startling, much less scary. They mostly just made me mad that I had to start the night all over again. When I played through FNAF 2 the first time, the games were new and the scares still got me every now and then. But now, each jump scare is greeted with a shrug instead of a, jump. This is especially true as the nights go on, and by the time you've beaten the 6th night and unlocked the custom night mode, it's just as much of a gauntlet of frustration as I remember it being. With so many animatronics roaming the halls and so much RNG involved, whenever I failed, it didn't even necessarily feel like it was my fault, but rather a general unfairness. And sure, there's something creepy in all of these games about seeing the animatronics lurking around the edge of the office, even if I still think it's funny that they're just GIFs. It's an indie game, and I don't expect high-tech scares, but that creepiness wore off even more more immediately this time around, partly because I was too busy frantically rotating through camera feeds and cranking up music boxes. The FNAF games have been described as stress management simulators, at least by me, and that's still pretty accurate, but it's a different thing from what they're sold as, a true horror game that haunts you with imagery or scenarios that stick with you, which isn't something that these games are particularly interested in.
When I sign up for something in the horror genre, I want to be scared. Like, even knowing what everyone's doing right now, instead of being scared, I'm just annoyed because my friends are gonna pop out and yell at me. There's a difference between all this, you know? I think there's a true, genuine... All right, that's Bradley with no shirt and a Yoshi hat. Scariest thing I've seen, let's go.
Look, I have completed almost all of the Five Nights games, and I think it's always been clear that I love difficulty in games, and I love difficult challenges that are designed for completionists like myself. I was into that sort of thing when I first played it, and I still am to this day. But Five Nights 2 takes its difficulty to a whole other level. I don't mind that it's hard, but I found it way too hard to be fun last time, and that sentiment still stands. I still think that way too much of the difficulty for Five Nights 2 is entirely founded and based on RNG. So while a whole online community sprung up around completing these games, Five Nights 2 never goes out of its way to make it worth it. And the community was a large part of what made these games so fun when they came out. But now, that's kind of worn off. There's not much there to make me want to push through a gauntlet of animatronic stress anymore. As I noted last time, by the third level, FNAF 2 is already as hard as anything in the first game was, and there are still several nights to go. The unlockable 6th night is also hard, but by that point, it's all determined so much by trial and error. I tried employing the same strategies that got me through it last time in order to minimize my chances of death. But just like in real life, sometimes the scary animals are just gonna get you no matter what you do. But the real nightmare here, once again, is still custom night mode. And while later games would go even crazier with the custom nights you could build, there are 10 preset custom night challenges here, which more than doubles the amount of nights I'd have to endure if I want to fully complete this game again. Look, I'm gonna be f***ing blunt, it's too many nights. It was too many then, it's too many now. Being stuck in a doorless murder box is bad enough, but one can only endure such a fate for so many nights. 5 sounds reasonable, 6 is doable. And I even think that the 10 extra challenges might be manageable if I wasn't destined to a second date with the granddaddy of them all, the Golden Freddy Challenge. All right, so the first game has its 2020 challenge that was made up by the community at large. In FNAF 2, this one has all 10 characters cranked up to a difficulty of 20, plus the pesky puppet. That's 10 20s. That's too many 20s. I don't want that many 20s unless they're in my wallet, because those 20s won't be trying to murder me, they'll be trying to stay in my wallet and help me with my life. Golden Freddy mode is what nearly killed me last time. With that many animatronic animals running around, you're truly at the mercy of the RNG, which I now have even less patience for. It isn't to say that I didn't also have to be constantly vigilant, because I did. Animatronic death lurks around every corner, and the thought of surviving for 7 minutes starts to sound totally impossible. That's why I freaked out so much the last time when I finally did it.
Oh my god!
Okay. Because I was genuinely starting to feel like I never would, and because it felt totally out of my control. So while the first few nights of FNAF 2 are reasonable fun before they start to get super hard, I can't honestly imagine anyone enjoying Golden Freddy mode, much less enjoying it enough to do it twice. It's death. It's just pure death. A constant, unending parade of death. I don't feel like I was getting closer each time. It just felt random. In fact, usually when I go back to a game for New Game Plus to recomplete, I have an easier time. This was not the case here. It felt just as random and as hard as it did before. And while it didn't take me quite as long, I don't think that was necessarily because I did anything right. I just wanted it to be over so badly, especially knowing that this is the last time I'll ever have to cover one of these games ever again. And the universe finally showed me a little bit of mercy.
Even now, knowing this is my last time completing a FNAF game ever, it doesn't feel like my nightmare is over. There's always going to be more of these games, and there are probably still more people lurking around this office trying to scare me or something. Oh, hey, Fraser.
Hey.
What's up, dude?
Nothing much.
You're not here to, like, scare me or be weird or anything, are you?
No.
Cool.
I'm going to let Bradley do that.
Oh my god, this is, no.
Just like these games are superficially scary, the rewards for completing them are also skin deep, or fur deep, or whatever animatronic animals have instead of skin or fur. I don't know, this Game is weird. When you beat the first 5 nights, you get a star in the main menu and a paycheck for $100, which is not nearly enough for anyone, but it's slightly less insulting than the paycheck for the 6th night, which is just $20 for overtime. Gee, thanks. But those paychecks and the article that appears alongside it also offer up little bits of lore, which is what people are really after. It's on the first check that you get the reveal that the game is a prequel to the first one. The 6th night also gets you a 2nd star in the menu, and you just know there's a 3rd star waiting for you once you've beaten the custom night. If I was the sort of person who would be satisfied with just 2 stars, I would have, but, well, you know. The 3rd star shows up once you've beaten 2020 mode, but that's not the end of it. Each of the other challenges gets you a little figurine for the security office desk, which is kinda cute. If you've spent every night being stalked by animatronic monsters, I'm not totally sure why you'd want figures of them on your desk, but hell, I'm not here to judge, because I fought my way all the way through Golden Freddy mode just to get, you guessed it, a Golden Freddy plushie on the desk. Totally worth it. A great use of my time once again. The most worthwhile endeavor I've ever undertaken. I'm certainly not just as mad about it this time as I was last time, no sir! But that's it. I did it. I'm done. I am done, and I am free of Scott Cawthon and his Five Nights at Freddy's games. You can keep making them, Scott. Keep pumping them out. Guess who's not playing them? Me. So while that feels good, I'm sure I'll still shudder every time I drive past a Chuck E. Cheese. I'm just so over it, you guys. When I recompleted Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there were 45 deaths at the hands of Freddy and his fuzzy friends, mostly during Golden Freddy mode. Surprisingly enough, this is fewer deaths than last time, but still, way too many. 11 monstrous mechanical murder machines, which I found a lot less unsettling now than I did before. It's probably because I've played so many damn games, but that's fine. 3 stars on the main menu, and a desk full of figurines, which was just as unfulfilling of a reward this time as it was last time. 20 total hours played, which is insane for a game that's just surviving through a 7-minute long night 16 times, and that's somehow still even quicker than I did it previously. And zero 5-night games in my future. I mean it this time, I'm done. My therapist said I'm free. I am done. I still think there are things to love about the Five Nights series, but completing these games just isn't fun, especially this one. Little tidbits of lore are neat and all, but they have so little to do with the actual playing of the game. So while I admire what Scott Cawthon has made for himself and the community, these games are just no longer for me. Oh my gosh. Woo! Guys, I'm free. I'm home. I did it! With that in mind, guys, I give this game its new completionist rating of play it, as in play it once and never again. Woo!
Play it!
Yes!
Warning, the following video will contain several jump scares from the various Five Nights at Freddy's games. If you've seen our other videos on Five Nights at Freddy's, you know what to expect.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Completionist. And today, we have an awesome special guest here. He's one of my best friends in the YouTube space as well as in real life. I love this guy so much. He makes literally some of the best content on the planet. Everyone, please welcome back to the show, Matthew Patrick from Game Theory.
Oh, you're talking about me!
Who else do you think I'm talking about?
I thought someone was gonna walk through the door and like, hey, it's me, I'm the special guest.
Psych!
Well, thanks, Gerard. I'm glad to be here, buddy.
Absolutely, man.
Of course. There's no doubt that the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise has spawned a lot of great theories, fan art drawings, and more importantly, it created a community hell-bent on figuring out what exactly is going on over the course of these games.
And so here we are. Scott Cawthon has managed to scare us one more time. Let's see what really takes place during Five Nights at Freddy's 3.
Within the Five Nights universe, we've established that the story is all but straightforward. We've been given breadcrumbs after breadcrumbs to slowly piece everything together. And while the lore remains pretty cryptic up to this point, we're about to dive into an even deeper rabbit hole.
The gameplay has fluctuated and the visuals have improved a fair amount between the games. The first game featured pretty basic controls, the second game spiced it up a fair amount, with the removal of doors, the addition of a flashlight, and a mask. Scott has done a very good job at keeping us on our toes.
So here we are, another 5 nights, another location, another trip with some of our favorite animatronics. It's animatronic mixed with the word monster. Get it?
While Five Nights 2 ended up being a prequel to the original, Five Nights 3 decided to head to the opposite extreme and enter the series as a sequel set 30 years after the events of the first game. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and the horrible unsolved murders that took place have now been passed into an urban legend, and an unknown group is looking to cash in on that story by opening Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction. Your character enters the equation as, you guessed it, the security guard at this soon-to-be open location. The presumed owner calls you on the first night and fills you in on how everything is going with preparations for launch, including news on recent findings of relics from the Freddy Fazbear locations. He talks about a lead he has from someone claiming to have designed one of the Freddy Fazbear buildings, and that he's on the way to check it out right now to try and find more stuff for the attraction.
After that, you're brought up to speed on your duties as security guard, checking cameras and vents, you know, the usual stuff. You're also told to use your maintenance panel to keep your cameras, audio, and ventilation systems up and running, because there's a serious issue with all the old tech they used to make the building, and if you don't keep those vents going, you'll start hallucinating. Oh, and also the place might burn down. So, yeah, there's that. It's not until night 2, though, that things get really interesting. On the previous night, the so-called phone dude apparently had some successful findings, and he tells you he found some very old training tapes for new employees, and, more importantly, a real one.
Gotta go, man. Well, look, it's in there somewhere. I'm sure you'll see it.
He cuts the call short and plays you one of the tapes, but now you know that things just got real. You are sharing the building with a real-life Freddy Fazbear animatronic.
Every night from then on, you hear another part of the training tape, which tells you about the new hybrid animatronic suit that can be adjusted to allow humans inside of them by cranking open the springs on the back. You also learn that these new suits aren't exactly the safest, and the tape goes as far as saying, don't breathe on the spring locks, because moisture from your breath can cause the locks to come loose and, well, ugh. At the end of the night, you get to play another Atari-style minigame just like the random death minigames from Five Nights 2. These ones are definitely a lot easier to understand this time around, but they hold a ton of deep and convoluted secrets that we'll touch on later on.
Wait, so, there's only one animatronic, and it's not even called Freddy? In the first game, we had 5 animatronics. The second one had at least, 10, 12? But Five Nights 3, we get 1? Okay, budget cuts. That doesn't seem to... Jesus! All right, family-friendly show, no swearing. Whew. Five Nights 3 is on another level with the visuals and audio. The cameras are all decrepit and insanely staticky. All of the hallways of Fazbear's Fright are filled with stuff that looks like it's trying to kill you. Pieces of old animatronics like heads and bodies are propped up to look all spooky and end up making checking the cameras stressful because everything looks like it's the thing you should be looking for.
The audio plays a big role in these games, and there are a lot of pros and just a few cons to the third game's new audio tracks. The voice work is still done solely by the game's creator, Scott Cawthon, portraying both the phone dude and also the guy from the Fazbear training tapes. The creepy ambient sounds from the second game to warn you about the approaching animatronics do make a comeback, though this time they're a little more toned back. And honestly, it works pretty well for a more subtle experience.
Now, if there's one thing these games are known for, it's the jump scares, and I gotta say, it's all over the place in the third installment. Your main enemy is the animatronic Springtrap, and after the first few times dying to him, the scare factor wears off pretty quickly. On the bright side, though, the audio cue is far more reserved than the past couple of games, making this one much easier on the ears, while still being loud enough to cause a jump. On the other hand, Springtrap just kinda slinks forward towards you. I mean, look at this. He's not even that close. After getting used used to the in-your-face jump scares from the other two games, this one just seems incredibly tame by comparison.
Nesquik makes fun milkshakes.
But let's take it to the other extreme real quick. The animatronics from the previous games do make an appearance as hallucinations in Five Nights 3, and they're nothing short of heart attack material. From the haunting face of Balloon Boy plastered across your screen to the ears bleeding wail of the Mangle watching you from the outside window. If there's anything that's going to make you leap out of your seat in this one, it's these guys.
Aside from that, the game is very quiet overall, which makes every sound effect that much more biting and unsettling. When any of your systems go offline, the sitting and the waiting and the reboot noise are just so aggravating. It feels like it's going on for days. Little quiet things too feel loud and make you panic because you're stuck, unable to do anything while these just tick away trying to reboot. It's a very well-crafted horror atmosphere. This, combined with the sickly green color that everything seems to be covered in, makes the spookiness pretty real. Overall, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 brings the horror vibes with a vengeance.
So let's get right into it. Like previous titles, this game has you checking cameras and making sure that your animatronic enemy doesn't reach the security room, because that spells the end for you. The real difference here is that unlike Five Nights 1 and 2, the third game manages to make using the camera system absolutely necessary. Originally, the camera was useful on nights 1 and 2, maybe 3, but became almost useless on the super hard nights later on. This time around, there's no magic set of motions that make everything go automatically well. You've got to find Springtrap on the cameras and use the Balloon Boy sound cues to lead him around to keep him from moving towards you.
Hello?
There are two layers of the map, one of them being the hallways and the other being the ventilation system. You can seal shut one vent at a time, which is helpful for keeping Springtrap from skipping the whole damn place and getting straight into the security room. I'm looking at you, Camera 10. You know what you did. Or didn't do.
Now, what keeps you in check from just spamming the audio is that your systems will go out after excessive use, or just over time. When your audio is off, you can't halt Springtrap or lead him away. When the video shuts down, you can't see where he is, and using audio will just leave you completely blind. And when the vents turn off, you'll start hallucinating and seeing the past game's animatronics haunting the building. Most of these are triggered in specific rooms on the video feed, and when you see them in the room, it's a standard reaction to take the camera down and see if something's wrong. Doing this, though, just means that they're getting a free, loud as all get out jump scare right at your face, and depending on which one it is, they're automatically gonna shut down some of your systems.
The proper way of dealing with this is simply to change to another camera before putting the monitor away, but that's easier said than done when you're frantically looking for Springtrap and making sure he isn't already right on top of you. And really, that's all there is to it. Granted, most of the fun in this game is trial and error and figuring out just how to do all of this on your own, so an explanation like this doesn't really do a blind playthrough justice. A big change to the cameras that makes the game harder in general is how slowly they transition. They used to be really quick with little to no crossfade, but now you have to wait a second or two to make sure the static clears, and you've got to get a good look of the room before switching again. Coupled with Springtrap's tendency to stay very well hidden, and you've got a rough combination on your hands. You'll need to try your best to really look for Springtrap, and just when you think you found him...
Now, there's no challenge modes like in the second game, and there's actually not even a Night 7. Instead, Night 6 is referred to as Nightmare mode, and is considerably harder than the previous nights. Your audio fails after 2 uses, and Springtrap moves pretty quickly. All in all, I'd say it's not as hard as the dreaded 2020-2020 modes, but it provides a good challenge. Like we said previously, this one is much less about getting a rhythm of certain actions going and more about quick thinking and prioritizing. Keeping your systems up can sometimes mean sacrificing one for a bit to ensure that you have a more important one staying up. Usually, video takes the bottom priority for 2 reasons. 1, the ventilation can cause your vision to black out and Springtrap can attack you during those moments. And 2, the audio is your only tool to move Springtrap from one room to another.
This means you'll need to know the path that Springtrap takes through the building, as well as timing to make sure you don't lose track of him. It gets pretty rough, but it lends to a more skill-based and strategic gameplay than ever before. Also, it's stressful as balls. The main gameplay aspect are the secret mini-games that take place in between each night, and they require certain tasks for you to do. But since those are kind of a spoiler to the story, let's head right into the next one. Oh God! Really? Another jump scare? Ah! So you've passed through all of the nights leading up to this, and you've played every minigame so far. The minigames have you playing as what appears to be as Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, and regular Foxy in a location that doesn't quite line up with either layout of the restaurants from Five Nights 1 or 2. A shadow Freddy figure floats away, telling you to follow him, and he leads you to the back corner of the building near some boarded up rooms.
As soon as you reach the threshold to go into the next room up, you get an error message on your screen, and you can't access the room. As soon as you try and walk away, the infamous purple guy runs out of the room and dismantles you.
The fifth night is pretty brutal. You only get 2 audio usages before it goes offline, and the jump scares seem to be everywhere. There's definitely skill involved in this, but you'll be overwhelmed quite a bit.
In the 5th and final of these games, you instead play as what appears to be a dead child or ghost. No Shadow Freddy shows up this time, but you head on up to the same room either way. Once inside, you find Purple Man and 4 other dead children. He appears to be scared of you and tries to avoid you and run away when you get near.
After a moment, the purple guy runs over to the spring Bonnie suit on the floor and gets inside. He takes a moment and laughs before the spring locks inside of the suit, presumably covered in moisture from the rain leaking through the ceiling, break loose and kill him. With the purple guy now dead, the ghosts disappear, the screen fades to black and... Wait, what? Bad ending?
You see, there's actually 2 different endings in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. The bad ending is achieved for just playing through the game normally, but the good ending? Well, the good ending is gonna require quite a bit of explanation. So on every single night, there's actually a secret Atari-style minigame that you can find by performing certain actions hinted at the regular minigames. If you head left, then down again in any of these games, you'll come to this room, which will have hints to the actions you need to take in order to enter the secret minigames.
These hints can be pretty vague, so here's how to do each game in detail. Start out on night 2, go to camera 8, and double click on this drawing right here, a balloon boy on the left wall. This will trigger Balloon Boy's air adventure. This minigame can be accessed on any night and needs to be played several times in order to unlock the good ending. Start by collecting all 7 balloons in the starting area. Instead of heading to the exit, go to the platform above the exit and jump to the left out of the wall. Note that this only will open up after you have all 7 balloons initially. Fall down, and once you've landed, head to the right past the 3 crying balloon boys and jump into the last part of this room to collect the 8th and final balloon, ending the minigame.
Now you want to head on over to camera 7. This one only works on night 2. On the player 1 buttons for the arcade cabinet, click the top left, bottom left, top right, bottom right, and you'll start up Mangle's quest. Since you already did the 8 balloon ending of the previous game, all you need to do is collect the pieces of Mangle while avoiding this kid. Once all the pieces are collected, head over above the exit and jump out of the wall, just like last time. Fall down and head left once you're near this giant puppet silhouette. Jump up onto the balloon platforms and those will take you to a big cake under a crescent moon. Grab the cake to end the game, and then go back to Balloon Boy's air adventure.
Now that you've gotten the cake, you can beat the Balloon Boy game for real. Clip out of the wall once again to the left and fall straight down to some new platform balloons. Simply jump over to the right and you'll find a ghost child standing by himself on a platform. Walk up to him, give him cake, and the minigame ends. Next up is Chica's Party. On night 3, you can find cupcakes with eyes on cameras 2, 3, 4, and 6. Click each of these to enter the Chica's Party minigame. Fall into the gap in the middle of the stage, then head left to find the ghost child. Simply jump up the balloons and give him cake. Alright, now we apologize in advance for this one. This is the one that gets a little more than convoluted, to say the least. Your hint for this game is 395248. On night 4, you need to click on the set of tiles on the wall in between the box of masks and the trash can in the room in front of you. It reads like a phone's dial pad, with the number 1 being the tile slightly covered up by the guitar. Punch in 395248 to start up the Stage 01 minigame.
Let's be real for a second. I will explain this as best I can, and I am so sorry that this is confusing. First, you play as Golden Freddy. Start by walking off the stage towards the children and then turning around in the air to bump into the stage. If you do this correctly, you'll glitch out and slide through the stage until you're out of bounds. Step 1 completed. You'll fall down past 2 other stages and land on the floor. Head right 1 screen and use the right side of this room to boost up on top of it. Once on top, get positioned above Golden Bonnie and jump around until you clip upwards into the room above you. Walk over to the right wall and use it to boost up again and clip back out of the room on top. You still with me? Great. Get into the room above you the same way you did last time, right above Golden Bonnie. In this one, though, use the left wall to shoot up on top of the room. You're now on the very top of the map, so simply walk over to the right and jump off the edge to end up in the Ghost Child secret room and end the minigame. Whew!
Wow.
What? That's it? Just wow. Come on, Beardy, we're not even done yet.
All right, okay, so the next one isn't quite as complicated. On night 5, click on the Shadow Bonnie figure on the right side of the desk to begin the glitch minigame. By holding W, you can fly, and by bashing S, you can change which room you're in. The rooms will be different rooms from the previous games you've already played. One of the rooms will be mostly purple with a ghost child outside on the left. You can exit the same way you exited the Balloon Boys room. Once outside of the stage, change over to the ghost child room and walk over to him to give him cake and end this minigame.
And lastly, once you've completed the Shadow Bonnie game, click over to camera 3 and double-click the picture of the puppet on the right side wall. Walk to the right until you reach a table with 4 masked children standing in front of it and 1 crying. Put the cake on the table and the final minigame is complete. Play your way through Night 5 successfully to achieve the good ending, signifying the dead children's souls are finally at peace.
The check mark of stars on the main menu returns as our symbol for completion in this game. Beating the game with the bad ending gets you 1 star, unlocks Nightmare Mode, and a mini option menu labeled Extras. Nightmare Mode acts as the 6th night mode of this game, with the AI being that much more aggressive and scary. Beating this night, which is no easy feat, will get you another star and more extras. And finally, after doing all the minigames I just told you about and beating the game, the combination of achieving the good ending, the bad ending, and Nightmare Mode puts 3 gold stars on the main menu, meaning you've completed it. The extra menu will be fully accessible when you have all 3 stars. You get to view still images of Springtrap and all the Phantomatronics, and even see their jump scares in action. Hooray! More jump scares!
You also get a cheat menu with 4 options. Fast Nights is pretty self-explanatory, making the time move faster for the main game. Radar will show where Springtrap is on the map at all times, so you never have to go around and look for him. Aggressive will make Springtrap more difficult to deal with, allowing you to in essence create a makeshift Night 7 by turning on Aggressive and then playing Night 6. And finally, No Errors keeps all of your systems online at all times.
Even though these bonuses aren't super great incentives to go all out, the game is so short that you don't really feel ripped off for putting in the effort to unlock everything, especially if you've already completed the other 2 Five Nights at Freddy's games. Five Nights 3 really changed the direction from what we got in Five Nights 2. In the second game, there were tons of challenges for somebody interested in more than just the main story. They were difficult, they were very frustrating, and for the thrill seekers out there, they were a lot of fun.
Five Nights 3 tones it back and goes for more of a horror experience than a horror game. Completing Nightmare Mode pales in comparison to 420 mode or the upsetting 1020 challenge from previous games. Not to say that this one isn't rewarding, as the fleshed out story-based minigames and strategy-centric gameplay makes completing it all the more fun.
Now usually, we end our Five Nights reviews with me overcoming the difficultness of these games, with something as hard as 1020 or 420 modes. But there isn't one in this game, and this makes the end game much more easy, and way more manageable considering the circumstances. The fandom of Five Nights 3, however, did come up with their own version of a completionist end. Completing Nightmare Mode with the aggressive code on is kind of the challenge, but doing so does nothing if you beat it. All in all, I think I only put about a total of 3 hours into Five Nights at Freddy's 3 once I realized how it all worked. That's not a bad thing, it's just kind of a different thing. And that's a good way to end the series in my opinion. It may not necessarily be completely different or edgy or weird, but it's a nice ending to this trilogy. If there is going to be a fourth, who knows what to expect. Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is a great conclusion to a trilogy of awesome indie horror games that answers enough questions in the story to be satisfying, yet at the same time raises enough questions to continue the series' mysteriously filled legacy.
With a slightly less aggravating difficulty than its predecessors, and a more focused set of game mechanics, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 may be the easiest of the trilogy, but don't knock it out, as that's not necessarily a bad thing. Everything just balances itself out.
So with that in mind, guys, this game gets our completionist rating of
Finish it!
Finish it!
Alright, Gerard, we gotta be careful this time around, or Scott's just gonna add more stuff to the game for you to do.
I know. Thank God we finally finished completing Five Nights at Freddy's 3 with Nightmare Mode done. 4 stars and done.
Oh hey, look at that! Nate Wants to Battle logged on to Steam.
Oh my God. This can't be happening. This can't be happening! What happened to an October release date?
Oh, the reckoning is upon us, Gerard! It's time for FNAF 4! Completionist style.
We're gonna need more help this time around.
Yes!
Warning, the video you are about to watch will feature a lot of jump scares from all 4 Five Nights at Freddy's games. These scares are used as humorous tools to make you jump and scream. You've been warned. If you're scared of scary things, don't watch this video.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode of The Completionist. As the YouTube community has grown, we've had a ton of awesome guests come on the show, and Five Nights at Freddy's has become a staple YouTuber game. So, back once again for another episode of Five Nights at Freddy's is MatPat from the Game Theorists.
Well, it's good to be back, as always, thank you. No need to grovel or bow or kowtow, sir. Always good to be back, Beardy. So, with Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, releasing the quote-unquote final chapter of this game, we needed to bring in the big guns to help us out with this one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Nate Wants to Battle.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm really psyched to be here and really psyched to be singing about Five Nights at Freddy's with you guys. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Wait, hold on. You said singing? You're a singer?
So, you don't actually play the games?
I mean, I do, but I mean, I mainly just sing about them.
We're done.
We're doomed.
We're 86th.
We are finished.
This is it. We're done. We're dead.
We're next. It's
Go
over.
home. Go home.
Game over, man.
You got the wrong guy.
That's it.
Wrong guy.
Sorry.
Wrong guy.
The big guns.
The big guns.
We were gonna get the big guns. These are moderately sized guns.
They said you were just as good as Markiplier. Ladies and gentlemen, the 4th installment of Five Nights at Freddy's is here. Officially called Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter, Scott Cawthon is pulling out all the stops for this one.
Let's talk evolution. We went from 5 animatronics to like 11 or 12 to 1 with bonus phantom scares, and that one wasn't even in a pizza place. And 4 just mixes it all up again. We've got a brand new setting, different mechanics, and holy jeez, look at these things. They're not animatronics anymore, they're monsters.
Not only are they monsters, but we're gonna call them animatronics. It's animatronics and monsters together.
Yeah, man, and say what you will about Cawthon, whether you think FNAF counts as a good game or not, but he's got props from all 3 of us for continuously keeping these games so exciting all the time.
Absolutely. And Scott, if this truly is the final chapter, if it is, thank you from all of us. But it's not.
You have changed all of our lives for the better. Thank you so much. jeez.
Oh, Scott, I hate you.
Damn it,
Not
Scott.
literally, but figuratively.
Damn it, Scott.
You keep getting everyone. Just
Damn it, Scott.
There is no storyline.
Time period wise, the Five Nights at Freddy's saga has jumped all over the place. People can't even agree on exactly when they're set.
Ha! Hey there, Gerard. Let your buddy MatPat theorize his way through the timeline, buddy. We've got a lot of key dates of 1987, 1993, and present day. It's a potpourri of disjointed goodness that reflect the overall ambience of this.
This game takes place in 1983, 4 years before the bite of 87.
Really? Nope, wait, I knew that. Totally knew that.
FNAF 4 takes place in 1983, with us assuming the role of a young boy who we can assume has been hospitalized.
Hospitalized? How do we know that?
The IV drip and bottle of pills next to his bed, Gerard. Come on, buddy, it's all about those details.
The game starts out with a minigame cutscene with us controlling the crying boy. The boy has a little golden Freddy bear that seems to be communicating with him in some way. His eyes follow you as you move around.
According to my notes here, it says that Golden Freddy isn't really known as Golden Freddy, but rather as Fredbear. Seems like this time around, Scott really wants people to know that they are in fact two separate, maybe, things.
The first minigame tells us the tale of a troubled boy who is locked away in his room with his Freddy plushies, crying himself to sleep. And as we defeat each night, more and more about the sad story of this boy is revealed. From this brother messing around with him using a Foxy mask, to his father leaving him locked away in a secret animatronics closet of a Freddy Fazbear location. This boy is being traumatized tremendously.
So yeah, this is FNAF 4. We aren't a security guard or re-experiencing the life of one. We are a young boy who's experienced some form of physical trauma to the point that he needs to be on life support. And we're in his room where he needs to try and fight off animatronics. Well, here's the thing. Take a look at what the animatronics used to look like. And here's what we're up against now.
Scott! Ugh. These are literally monsters, but think of it this way. We know the young boy has some ties with Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and that he's heavily medicated, so most likely he's hallucinating. We aren't dealing with animatronics anymore, we're dealing with a drug-induced nightmare. And you're not so much sitting in your bedroom as you are locked away in a mental prison. Five Nights at Freddy's is no longer a place, it's a state of mind. And this state is filled with ridiculous monsters.
What this does for you is seriously raise the stakes. Each night conquered is another night you get to keep your life. There's no paycheck to earn here, kiddos. There's just a little boy's life, the sadness attached, and still more nightmares that await you. Five Nights at Freddy's? More like Five Nights at I'm gonna need a therapist.
So taking what we already know from the lore of the franchise, I would say this game is the most emotionally driven one so far. This boy has a story of his own, and complex and powerful feelings you can actually relate to. I'd like to share my more in-depth thoughts and theories about the story too, and I will, but we'll have to wait until the final level section for that first.
And hey, if you want a deeper dive into the FNAF lore, you can check it out right here. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you release 4 games in the span of 1 year, but, you know, whatever.
And you can check out my songs and gameplay videos too. Look!
Wow, we sure have a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's content, don't we, boys?
We sure do.
Yeah.
Yep.
As the saga unfolds, Five Nights just gets better and better, and when it comes to FNAF 4, I'll admit, at first, I was a bit worried. The main menu sets a new tone right away, and when I first started the game, the graphics were a tiny bit less detailed when compared to the third one, where every camera and setup had a specific purpose, and the animatronics almost looked real.
The room is obviously a child's room, and it has 2 attached hallway doors on either side. Since you're in the center of the room, checking the doors actually requires the player to get off the bed and see if there's anyone there. No cameras here, friendos. And worse, for the first time, you can also look behind you. Gameplay innovation, ladies and gentlemen. More on that in a little bit.
The biggest new mechanic in FNAF 4, though, is the listening. The audio, and I want to stress this as much as I can, the audio is the most important aspect of the game. The game is a glorified hide-and-seek adventure in all of the right ways, and also all the wrong ones. Right, as in it's executed very well, and listening to the animatronics move or breathe while simultaneously using a dinky little flashlight to see if there's something there is awesome. Wrong, because it sucks when you lose!
Can we just stop for a second and break down the jump scares visually? First off, look at these guys. Hands down, this is the scariest of all 4 games. Notice how depending on who scares you, you're kind of going on a little bit of a camera ride. Literally, the animatronics pick you up and take you for a ride.
I wanna take you for a ride.
Animatronics were bad before, but now I can never look at them the same ever again. Look at these animatronics. Completing this game is such a mental, physical, and emotional commitment that I have actually spoken to my own real-life therapist about it. Yes, I have a therapist, and no, it's not weird. And legitimately, I'm suffering from a little PTSD from these games. Honestly, I don't even know if I could go to a Chuck E. Cheese ever again. Nope.
The listening component of this game is what makes it so different. You need to really understand what the difference is between the animatronic's breaths, walking, and laughing sounds. Like a weird FNAF 4 version of Muldoon from Jurassic Park. You've gotta listen and know what's next. Or else. Clever girl. Like we said earlier, gameplay is totally different from the other 3 and ends up playing like a mix of some of the cooler aspects from the other games, with a handful of new features sprinkled in.
Our returning lineup features Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and Freddy, with a golden Fredbear kicking around too. Balloon Boy isn't around this time, and neither is the puppet. But hey, Chica's cupcake for some weird-ass reason is now an awful animatronic too. All the animatronics have taken the title Nightmare, so we're up against Nightmare Chica, Nightmare Bonnie, Nightmare Foxy, Nightmare Freddy, and I guess at this point, Nightmare Cupcake. Who's ever heard of a Nightmare Cupcake before?
Checking the left door will stop Bonnie from coming inside. Checking the right door will stop Chica. You'll need to check the hallways to see if Bonnie and Chica are there, but if you turn the light on and they're right in front of you, bam, you're dead. To avoid death, you've got to listen for the breathing, which is very faint. If there's no breathing, you can check with the light and see if they're there. And then, if you hear the breathing, close the door. Now, I know what you're thinking, just turn around. Look at the bed. Ignore both doors and be safe, right? Nope. Think again. You know that cupcake? Chica sends it after you if she feels like you've been leaving Bonnie and her alone for too long.
So why look at the bed? Well, that's where your little Freddy teddy bear is, and if you don't turn around all the way to check on it as much as possible, a bunch of little evil Freddy bear gremlin things appear, commonly referred to as Freddles, and they hide when you flash the light on them. Basically, it acts kind of like a warning meter, because eventually, when you turn around too late, big old Freddy will be there waiting to get ya.
Now, the closet is Foxy's home, although technically you can see him peeking in from the hallways on certain nights, but details. Now, the closet is Foxy's home. The closet is actually always open, so you have to check it periodically with your light just to make sure that Foxy doesn't escape. If you see Foxy, close the door and hold it for a few moments, then go check again to see his status. Depending on his position, you'll know if he's going away or if he's just messing with you and sticking around. I hate when he does that.
I feel like a broken record saying this, but in my opinion, I think the newest FNAF right now, FNAF 4, is the most difficult in the series. It's the most stressful, the most scary, and the most intense out of them all.
Surviving until 6 a.m. this time around may be the hardest out of all the games, but I will say it's definitely worth it for the creepy minigames. There's 2 minigames that happen every night. One minigame is more of a cutscene that further explains the story of the boy and his mistreatment at the hands of whomever. The other minigame is catching the Springtrap plushie on the X mark. In front of you is a Springtrap plush doll that is going to try and kill you. If you check with the light at just the right moment, you'll win. Kinda weird, right? Well, here's the thing. If you win, well, Matt, tell them what happens if they win.
If you win the Springtrap plushie game, you win a few free hours starting into the following night. Seriously, starting the following night with a few hours less is awesome. It'll make the journey to night 5 a bit more smooth, and trust me, in the war against the animatronics, we'll need as much help as we can get.
Oh my God, please. Where's John Connor? John Connor,
My
do your
butt is-
job,
ah.
come back from the future, and murder
For the love
all
of Scott
them.
Collins.
My butt was so clenched!
As we play each creepy story minigame, we learn that this little boy is experiencing a lot of abuse from his brother and I think maybe his father, to the nightmares of his imaginary friends. This young boy sure is suffering a lot. And the suffering is only furthered as we get to night 5, where at a certain time, all of the animatronics get replaced with Nightmare Fredbear, or more accurately, Nightmare Golden Freddy. And let me tell you, it's one of the worst ones.
If you manage to somehow conquer Night 5, you are then treated to a cutscene of what happened to the young boy. While at a Freddy Fazbear location on his own birthday, his brother and his bully friends take him and put him close to Fredbear's mouth, making fun of him and pushing him nearer and nearer. Then BAM! Everyone watches in horror as Fredbear chomps on his head. Ugh. And then, the game resets.
Usually, Gerard would move on to the completion bonus at this point, but before we do, we felt that the extra content in this game should be considered a part of the endgame scenario. See, cause after this, Night 6 unlocks, and yes, the game gets more difficult. But if you beat Night 6, you're treated to another extremely sad ending cutscene that involves the boy talking to his Freddy plushies. He's crying, but the plushies are there for him, comforting him, and reminding him that they will always be there for him.
And you would think it would end there, but alas, a 7th night is upon us, and this is where it gets scary. A new animatronic by the name of Nightmare has arrived, and yes, it is terrifying. It doesn't really do insane jump scare animations like the others, but it does make you feel incredibly uncomfortable, as he is the fastest and the worst of the crew.
If you somehow manage to beat Night 7, which, may I remind you, is really f***ing hard, you will be treated to a locked briefcase and all you can do is touch the locks with the following words on screen. Scott, what is going on here?
Scott has indicated that come October 31st, okay, sure, which was the original intended release date for FNAF 4, that DLC will be available to play, and this briefcase right here may just be the beginning of the end.
As far as theory goes, this is what I think Five Nights at Freddy's 4 is about. I think it's about the story of the acceptance of the haunting of the puppet. I know it's a lot of weird things I just said, but I think this is the story of the puppet. The crying sprite of the boy throughout the game looks very similar to that of the puppet. It's obviously not the bite of 87, but it's got this unique spin to it. There is this sudden loss and feel in the game, especially in that last cutscene we see. Wait, that animation is going. That means one. No! 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 No!
So, should we keep going?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, Scott, if you're watching, I hope you understand that we love you, that sometimes hate you, but we love you a whole lot. But this poor guy right here,
This can't be a thing! This is
worked to the bone to become a master at this game.
Here's the thing, Gerard suffers quite a bit when it comes to games, but when the games bite back, he becomes a bit of a rageaholic. And in this case, well, 420 mode is back, and you unlock it by typing in 2020 in the options menu.
From what I understand, 420 is the hardest it's ever been. Granted, you still get stars for beating each mode, and there's 4 stars thus far, but...
No, let me guess, Scott. 420 mode, 2020 mode doesn't get you anything, does it? Oh, you get a star, but there's nothing after that. Nothing but sadness and anger and a Xanax and a blood pressure pills.
You're okay, buddy. You're okay. You're good.
Yeah, how don't you play something fun, like Tales of Symphonia? I... FNAF 4 has by far the most compelling story and scary mechanics. If this truly is the final chapter, if this is, then bravo, Scott. Bravo. I am skeptical.
This game is really hard, and it makes me cry.
The game is pretty tough and boy is it scary. But I will add that it has also brought so much solid entertainment to so many people out there. It's crazy. Scott wrote a great thank you letter to everyone who's played his game on Steam and even changed the image on his website in tribute. But come on, Scott. It's us who should be thanking you.
This game is really hard, and it makes me cry.
The FNAF saga is a confusing and joyful and difficult and fulfilling, sometimes, but mostly difficult, journey with a tough march to the end. This is maybe the best one. I don't know. Are you doing okay there, Gerard? Are you okay?
This game is really hard, and it makes me cry. You know what? Fine. F it. Let's do it. Let's do it live. We'll do it live right now.
It's gotta be close. Come on, we're almost. It's 5 a.m. right there.
Right there.
Nope. This is it. I'm done.
No, you got it. Don't give up. Do not stop.
Do not stop now. Come on.
Right there, dude.
You got it.
6 a.m. 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 Come on.
It's almost there.
Give me the 6 a.m. already. He's back over the sword. Oh, come on.
Don't do this.
Get up!
Oh my god. It's okay. It's fine. It's a safe place. We're good. You don't ever have to do that. I'm never playing a Five Nights game again. It's totally understandable.
You will.
Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter, is a great end to a great series, and it's one that will keep people engaged for years to come.
It's the most scary, the most intense, and the most progressive of the bunch. It's an amazing piece of work and apparently is being turned into a movie.
Completionists should go see a doctor, go take medication, and go seek medical attention after completing the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. DLC includes taking more medications, including hallucinogens, and going for daily walks through the park behind the gate, listening to Nickelback for forever. I'm in Shutter Island. I have my own Shutter Island, and I am Leo DiCaprio without an Oscar!
With that in mind, guys, we give this game our completionist rating of Finish It!
I could have got an Oscar!
Finish it!
Yes!
Disclaimer, this video will feature jump scares from all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games in an attempt to entertain you and keep you on your toes. Be advised that these jump scares will show up at random and they will be unannounced. You also should watch our other 4 videos on the previous Five Nights games before diving into this one, or else this will not make any sense. Unlike the most recent episodes of The Completionist, we will be dissecting everything about this game, as the entire gameplay is designed around the plot and progression of the game. This is your spoiler warning. I repeat, this is your one and only spoiler warning.
So are you sick of it? Are you over it yet? No? Because I sure as hell am. According to the internet, everyone seems to be loving Five Nights at Freddy's all the time. Five Nights at Freddy's and I, at this point, have had a pretty long history. 2 years ago, I went up against the original game, and yet here we are, facing the 5th goddamn one. The last game was called Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter. The final goddamn chapter, Scott. What else can we get into at this point? While today's episode doesn't feature a particular YouTuber, it does feature several clips from my playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's sister location with the Scary Game Squad, which is Davis from the Warp Zone, Alex Faciani, and Jesse Cox. So if you want to watch that, give it a click right here. With that said, let us begin with Five Nights at Freddy's sister location. This is gonna suck.
Scott Cawthon, the creator of Five Nights at Freddy's, has been very, very busy since the 4th game. Since we completed Five Nights at Freddy's 4, he released a new DLC update for Halloween. He released FNAF World, which was a happy-go-lucky RPG featuring all of the scary animatronics, which a lot of people didn't seem to care for some reason. I never got a chance to play it, but I kind of saw everyone else do it. He then released a book, Five Nights at Freddy's The Silver Eyes, which kind of plays as a retelling of the Fazbear lore. Here's a quick little summary about the book. I read the entire book on my plane ride over to Portland this last weekend. It stars a teenage girl named Charlie, who is the daughter of a man named Henry. Henry's the co-founder of Fazbear Entertainment. He's the one who also makes the animatronics. The book is set in 1995, and I actually really enjoyed the story. It kind of helps build out a different background of the story from the games. And everyone has questioned whether or not canonically it's correct. However, Scott has gone on the record that the book, while canon to the games, have their own interpretations of the lore, so it's kind of like the new Star Wars canon, just way less interesting and compelling. 1 out of 5 stars. Amazon reviews. Top all of this off with a new movie dropping in the next year or so, and you've got an intense schedule there, Scott. But here we are, another Halloween, another Five Nights at Freddy's. Yet this one is very different. Different gameplay, different story, different feeling, different writing, different everything. Personally, I really welcome this change. It comes off as Scott taking his time with this game. And looking at it, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm willing to give it a full clean slate of a shot. Now, I do want to break the wall for a quick second here and get a little real. I'm honestly not sure how many more Five Nights at Freddy's games that I can actually do. I've completed them all, including the Halloween update for FNAF 4, and while the lore of these games has been quite captivating, I've actually been suffering from severe anxiety while playing these games. Let this be a warning to you all. To complete these games is a legitimate health hazard, and Five Nights at Freddy's sister location is no goddamn different. Enough time has passed since the game's release a few weeks ago, but one thing that's been bugging me is the lack of coherent internet tracking for this game. The other 4 games had serious fans dissecting things apart, finding theories, ways of beating certain modes, and bigger content creators like Nate Wants to Battle and The Living Tombstone have done some wonderful original content based around the games. But for this game, Sister Location, something seems very off. There's a bit of a lack of unity in regards to the internet finding everything out, and that alone is going to make finding all the secrets a trek in itself. Obviously, like previous Five Nights games, we're going to survive all 5 nights. This should be pretty straightforward. Generally, the last 2 nights are the hardest, but I don't see it being an issue this time around. I've done 4 of these, how much more difficult can it get? We'll probably have our Atari-style minigames that need to be completed to showcase more lore-based moments. There will more likely be dumb secrets involved in which I don't mind, it's just going to take some time to figure it all out, and given the internet's lack of unity on this game, there's going to be things that we may have missed. We'll probably have to do 3 to 4 different things to get the 3 or 4 stars to have this game be completed, which will probably include a horribly difficult mode, which will make me call my doctor up a billion times. Listen, how much you want to bet there's going to be some bullshit RNG stuff in this game? For the love of God, Scott, stop leaving games up to RNG like you do with the goddamn jump scares! Sorry, 1 second, hold on. Dr. Hastings? Yeah, it's me. Uh-huh. Yep, it's FNAF time. 2 o'clock? Great. Thanks. I just need to get this off my chest. When it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's, the stories are all but direct. It's so hard to determine the story because of all of the games, side games, and the book. So take what I say with a grain of salt. Everyone's gonna have their theories, and they're gonna bitch and moan and complain, and you know what? This game at this point is kind of like Undertale. You make what you make of it. So if you were a super mega fan of Five Nights at Freddy's, you probably would go on to have read the Silver Eyes book. And while we know from Scott that the book is and isn't canon, based on its certain retellings of the events from the games, what we can determine is that this game kind of presents its basis of a story from what is clearly established in the book. When we cross that bridge, I'll give you my thoughts, but for right now, we play as a no-named man working as a security guard / maintenance technician at a place called Circus Baby's Pizza World. Now, given by the trailer, this place looks like a service center for manufacturing animatronics who would then get shipped out to other various locations. And its inhabitants this time around include tiny creepy babies, Funtime Freddy, Funtime Foxy, Ballora, and Circus Baby, or simply Baby, the main animatronic of the game. The point of the game, obviously, is to survive all 5 nights, but the lore unfolds itself quite nicely as the nights go on.
Don't be afraid. I'm not going to hurt you. I am only going to keep you for a little while.
In between each night, we are given little tidbits of information to help us connect the dots, including the illusion of a new, horrible incident in which Baby took the life of a young British girl.
I couldn't move. At least, not until she stepped closer. There was screaming for a moment, but only for a moment.
Now, when it comes to FNAF, I'm bad at theorizing. It's why I usually have MatPat here on the show for my FNAF videos. In fact, MatPat's most recent game theory video explains all of this incredibly well. I definitely recommend you check this one out. Based on his explanation and what I found on the internet, Sister Location takes place either before FNAF 4 or right after FNAF 4. You know, I will say that the storytelling in this game is the best it's ever been, but like previous games, it leaves a ton of goddamn questions, asking the fans to look for more. Aesthetically, this game looks the most original since the first game. All of the 3D models look super creepy and original and, for lack of a better word, wonderful. You have to give it up to Scott in this one. By the 5th game, 2 years later, he still somehow managed to scare the shit out of us with a goddamn animatronic bear holding a microphone. There's only so many times you can redesign an animatronic bear. The game does a killer job at making you feel comedically comfortable with the job you're taking on. The narrator robot that instructs you on what to do is really well written and executed, really lifting up the anticipation of the scares quite nicely. Even just the early moments of using the broken keypad are enough to keep the player engaged right from the start.
Thank you for selecting Exotic Butters.
And the actor behind Baby calmly controls the player in a duality battle with the narrator robot. The voice is calm and welcoming and soothing, yet creepy. Throughout the game, you kinda have to pick which one you want to listen to over the other. And as creepy as Baby is, the actor makes me trust that animatronic more, even if the other animatronics want to murder me still. God damn it, at this point, you would think that I became desensitized. How many hours of therapy, how many hours of cardio to calm my heart? I'm sorry. Breathe. The different locales and Easter eggs spread out throughout Sister Location are awesome, fulfilling that sagacious need of the FNAF player to look around, looking for clues, finding secrets, all the while slowly guiding the player from atmosphere to atmosphere, really sucking them in. The environment is the best it's ever been in this FNAF game. However, I still hate that stationary stretched cone imagery that we still have from the first game. If you turn left, if you turn right, you'll notice the edges of the screen we're looking at are stretched like a cone. It's like a weird VR experience. This has been the case for every FNAF game thus far, and it kind of looks and feels cheap. It's like taking an image and stretching it to your face and using that as an aspect of guiding the player. It does work for what the FNAF games are, but at this point, a lot of effort went into it, and it bums me out that that's still a thing 5 games later. Now, if I'm going to go one-on-one with this goddamn game, we're gonna lay out the groundwork, night by night. This is gonna be a full-on dissection. Every night is going to be a different experience. I'm therefore going to ruin the entire game for you. Hence, the big spoiler warning in the beginning of this video. I'm doing this because this game is nothing but plot and bullshit. But before we do that, let's talk about the previous games. FNAF 1 through 4 features simplistic gameplay that has you monitoring the animatronics via security feeds, doors getting closed, sometimes even stressing yourself out with winding up boxes or fixing vents and the like. From 12 AM to 6 AM, you need to manage your power and do your best to make sure that everything is accounted for 5 nights. And at the very least, keep an open eye focused on all of the goddamn animatronics at all times. Up to this point, this was the golden standard. Now, Scott flips this entire game on its head. Rely on your ears, as they will be your best friend for this entire journey. So for us, let's start with night 1. Night 1. Nothing happens. Literally. No, I'm serious. In regards to gameplay, nothing happens in night 1. The game teaches you one mechanic, and it's hardly one at that. Every night, you're going to press the light button to see if Ballora or Funtime Foxy are on the stage. If they're not on the stage, you'll need to press the shock button to make them get back to work, if you will. Ultimately, this is just to get you into your routine, but the game doesn't get you to commit to said routine other than these few moments in the game. You'll be asked to move to different areas via the vents, but you aren't in any danger and nothing really happens. Now, in between each night, we'll also get to see what the home lifestyle is for our main character. Every night, they'll watch this Dracula-based cartoon show while eating popcorn. It's really funny and cryptic, but doesn't quite push anything forward in regards to plot. But what does do that is the little moments of dialogue between the silence of the nights.
Daddy, you let the other children go see her. Why won't you let me go?
Anyways, let's move on to night 2. Night 2 starts off as it does, checking the stage, seeing if there's anyone there, applying controlled shocks to make things happen. However, things start getting messed up real quick, and our first trip out into the vents is to go check on Baby. Upon checking on Baby, we've got a huge problem. She's not there, but more importantly, this is where she starts talking to us. She tells us we should hide under the desk because something is coming to get us. What we then have is a tiny baby looking with its eyes in several holes of the cabinet we're hiding in. The baby tries to look into these holes, and if you make contact with the eye, bad stuff starts to happen. And eventually, the baby tries to get inside.
No! 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 No!
Are you moving it?
No, it's being dragged! No! No!
Drag harder!
No! No! Get out! No!
I've never been prouder of Gerard.
He's never been more determined to do anything in his life.
From here, things start to get really bad, and we need to reboot all the systems over in Funtime Freddy's neck of the woods. But you need to carefully sneak by Ballora, who is pirouetting around the room. Listen to the music cues. That's how you know she's nearby somewhere. We then end up in the circuit room with Funtime Freddy, and let me tell you, this game, while easy and straightforward, is very poorly explained. You have to restore power in all aspects of the building, but while you're attempting to do that, Funtime Freddy is appearing all over the place trying to attack you. You need to constantly switch back and forth between turning the power back on and playing a vocal box to lure Freddy away from you. This is somewhat easy, but what makes it hard is that they don't explain this at all or how to do it, and right here, you can easily die. Now, the cool thing I will say about Sister Location's gameplay is that there are moments of brevity within death. As opposed to starting a whole night over, you'll sometimes won't start back at the very beginning. There's not really a forced time mechanic here. You might have to do a few puzzles over again, but for the most part, you only go back a little bit. Moving on to night 3. Okay, so with night 3, you check the stages, you do your business, and Foxy has left the stage, god damn it. You don't need to check on Baby again, but if you do, you can actually get an extra scene where Baby gives you some more fun clues and backgrounds to the lore. Now apparently Funtime Freddy is having some malfunctioning issues, and we'll have to go to the parts and services side of the building to repair them. But Foxy wasn't on the stage, and we need to sneak by Foxy. This part is relatively easy. You just need to casually move in the dark and every now and then use the flash to see if Foxy is nearby. If you stand still in these moments, you'll be okay. But if you see Foxy or bump into him, you're in trouble. This flashing camera part just gives me PTSD from the Saw games. God damn, those games are awful. But at least they're easy, Scott. At least Saw is easy, Scott! Once you get safely across, it's time to fix Funtime Freddy. So this sequence is not that bad, but it's also easy to get tricked into choosing the wrong button or compartment to open up Freddy. What's worse is that Funtime Freddy has a mini Bonnie puppet on its hand, and as you start to fix Freddy, this Bonnie puppet becomes a jump scare. It's a little bit difficult, but if you trick Mini Bonnie to show up and click the button on the bow tie, you'll win. You are then advised to make it back to the control room, but no matter what you do, you are jump scared and killed by Foxy and forcibly moved on to night 4. Okay, so night 4, honestly, is my absolute least favorite night. The game gets super goddamn hard as Baby has stuffed you into a Springtrap suit. You know, the suit Purple Guy is stuffed into in FNAF 3 and is now the goddamn golden Bonnie from hell in that game. The Springtrap suit rusts real easy due to moisture, breathing, and your overall heartbeat. And because of all of these things, the springs start to become loose, and if they become fully loose, it alludes to you getting killed by the suit. But Scott, you couldn't stop there, buddy. You had to go one extra step. Meet Ballora's baby ballerinas. These half-done animatronics start appearing all over the place. You'll need to keep all of the screws wound up at all costs, but what's worse is that these animatronics start climbing up the sides. If they reach the top, you're gonna be dead, so you have to shake them off. However, shaking them off forces all of the screws to become way too loose. And when they start flashing red, oh boy, take off those headphones. You're dead. And honestly, this part of the game is so goddamn hard that Scott had to release a patch to make it easier. But don't give up, because in that moment, you'll overcome it like I did, and you'll feel goddamn fantastic.
Go down.
5. Don't even worry about those guys.
Yes! Yes!
It's a
this. What is good?
Not this. Fuck that.
So before we talk about Night 5, I want to talk about the Atari minigame in this game. Sometimes when you die, you become Baby and you need to give everyone cupcakes. Similarly to shooters like Contra, the cupcakes have different shooting patterns depending on the color and whatnot. While not important right now, you will need to complete it eventually. Night 5 is one of the easiest nights in the game. 2 technicians that are down in the basement have been murdered and are hung in the respective hallways of Foxy and Ballora. The robot man wants you to come back to parts and services to help repair Baby, but he warns you that Ballora is now on the prowl, and she's pissed. Once you arrive, Robot Man goes away and Baby takes over. Baby tells you precisely what to do. Now, this part is kind of like defusing a bomb. You need to absolutely be super precise and take your time by typing in the numbers on the generic keypad, because if you mess up, boom, that's game over. Upon getting it right, you send Baby to the scooping center, which apparently all of the animatronics are afraid to go to, and you'll have to go there. Follow Baby's instructions to the T to avoid Ballora, and Night 5 is then over. So amongst the lore of this game, we've come to find out that Baby killed a British young girl. She created ice cream for the little girl and gave it to her. In doing so, Baby then decided to kill the girl by pulling her into her own body, sucking in the soul of this girl. And the whole time we were in this game taking care of these robots, it turns out that Baby was just trying to do the same to you and manipulate you. When you arrive to the scooping room, it's revealed that all of the animatronics have been killed except for one, this evil-looking clown thing named Ennard. Ennard uses the scooper to kill you, the player, and take over your body. So the game ends with the death of you and your new friends inside of your body possessing you. Your eyes flash purple, thus giving the indication, amongst many other theories with facts and theories, that you are actually William Afton, aka the Purple Guy, who would then go on to murder all the other kids that end up haunting all of the other Freddy Fazbear Pizza locations. Pretty intense stuff, but hey, that's just a theory, a game theory. Watch him because he did a better job than I did.
Love you, Matt.
Of course, Sister Location has to have that one thing, that one goddamn evil thing, one impossible mode that's going to ruin my life. Before we do that, let's talk about how to unlock this evil beast. First, beat the game to unlock a 1-star rating. You guessed it, there's 2 more stars total to unlock for 3 stars. What else can we do to unlock more stars? So let's talk about that Atari Death minigame. Waiting for this game to show up is a pain in the ass as it shows up randomly when you die. However, if you go to the extras menu you just unlocked for beating the game, you can move the mouse to the corner of the screen and you'll see a little baby icon. Click on it and now you can easily play this game as many times as you'd like until you get that 2nd star. In order to get said star, you need to feed every single kid with the cupcakes, grab the ice cream at the end of the level, and then instead of clearing it, run all the way back to the beginning and drop the ice cream off where you started. Doing this will actually show the young British girl being killed by baby. You did that? Great, because now you've got 2 fucking stars and it's time to get fucking ready. It's time to tackle Ennard, the evil goddamn thing that wants to murder us. Continue from night 5 yet again, and this time after you've typed in the keypad and sent baby to the scooper room, ignore her advice to go to where she wants you to go. If you looked in the extras menu, you'll see that there's a secret room you can get access to. If you try to get into it before doing the minigame, you'll hear access denied and Ballora will jump scare you to death. But if you beat that Atari minigame and run into that room, it's opened and you'll hear access granted. And then, welcome back to classic Five Nights at Freddy's, everyone. The end is almost near, and my goddamn sanity is gone with it. We are thrusted back into the fray of the traditional Five Nights at Freddy's format by dealing with 3 doors, a camera system, and a horrible monster known as Ennard. This son of a bitch is an RNG mess. Just like the other ones, they're all RNG messes. Scott, stop leaving it to chance. Give me a game where I can take you down with my goddamn gaming skills. Clap emoji. Everyone online says he's easy. Well, everyone who says that is full of shit and they didn't really do it. Here's how to win this fight. From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., you need to survive. Ennard shows up in one of 3 places that you need to be worried about. The left hallway, the right hallway, and the vent above the TVs. He has 2 positions per area to be concerned about, him in the hallways or the back position of the vents. The other one is at the actual door themselves or closer to the vents. If he's at the door, you are instantly done in a second, but you can't put down that door and stop him. Yet anytime you put the door down or check the cameras, you waste your power, and the combination of the 2 will drain that power faster. All of his patterns are completely RNG. From 12 to 3 a.m., it's actually kind of easy. The trick is to listen to what side of the room he's entering in. If he's from the left, check the camera to see if he's there. If he's in the back position of the hallway, wait. If he makes a second move, close that door just in case, check the camera. If he's there, sweet. If he's not, open the door. If he is there, wait until you hear one more noise. And when he makes that noise, you open that door and don't check the camera. He will 100% be gone. This works until 4 a.m. At 4, you then just start closing and hoping and pulling up cameras. Not to mention, there are moments when he doesn't move and doesn't make any noise, but then he kills you! You could be having the best goddamn run of your life, and then Ennard decides to wait in that one door for 3.5 minutes and eats up all of your goddamn power. You have to live off of milestones for yourself, but you're not gonna make it. You will never make it. You will fail. You will always fail until that one time when you think you didn't do it, you'll do it.
Unless this guy
Just
sits
stay
unless this guy's right there.
Just stay calm. Just
he
stay.
can do this.
Oh my god.
Don't yell at him. Don't yell at him. Jared's in the zone.
Is he gone?
What?
Is he gone?
I don't.
Come on, you son of a bitch. Come on.
Shh. It's gonna be tight.
2%.
We got it. We have to. F***ing over.
No.
God.
No. No.
Shut up.
This game. This fucking game.
Jared.
What?
Wait, what? Wait, no. Yes! Wait, what?
That's it?
No, pause. What?
For having all 3 stars and beating Ennard, you get a secret ending in which William Afton just goes home and Ennard follows him home while he eats popcorn. This is known as the fake ending according to the watermark burn in the bottom left corner of the screen. Yay! For beating the game the first time, you will get the extras menus, which lets you look at art, animations of animatronics, sound clips, and the like. Now, the big meme to come across this game is that once you get access to everything and get all 3 stars, you will unlock the voice clip and icon for Exotic Butters.
Exotic Butters. Exotic Butters. Exotic Butters. Exotic Butters.
Which is what the robot narrator's reward glitches out to be in Night 5. Enjoy your Exotic Butters. I'm gonna go sit in the corner and cry with my therapist while all of you enjoy your Exotic Butters. Thanks. Yep, thank you. There's also another small Easter egg when you are playing in the secret room with Ennard. You can type in the year 1983 into the number pad. It will then show you the security feed of the child's room from FNAF 4. Thank you, Scott. You are once again making things even more confusing. Like the traditional Five Nights at Freddy's, there's not much here when you complete the game, thus making it another notch in my belt in which I've conquered a really impossible feat and got nothing in the end. In my playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location, there was 23 hours of total playtime, 4 of which was spent on the regular game, and the other 19 were spent on the stupid secret Ennard fight. Roughly 20 deaths in the normal portion of the game, with another whopping 96 deaths just for the secret Ennard fight, and one goddamn story that still doesn't make sense 5 games later. Sister Location may be the best game with regards to its looks, storytelling, and even its gameplay. But once again, with its horrible RNG hard mode stress simulator ways of a game, and no further progression in our understanding of the lore or plot, Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location, while it may be the best one in the series to date, makes a few missteps that kind of bum me out.
Finish it!